Hello, I am Greg Bowen, Executive Director of ACLT. Welcome to our celebration weekend. For COVID safety reasons, we cannot hold our annual dinner auction this year, but we have another plan. We want you to spend your time outdoors with us and even to fly with us as we celebrate another successful year. So strap on your wings as we begin our flight at ACLT's roots at the Southside Trailhead, a very good place to start in reminding our fellow passengers of who we are. You see, from its formation in 1986, ACLT has had big plans. While preserving the 436-acre Gravit property on Scientist Cliffs Road, the board set its sights much further to conserve the vast forest lands on both sides of Parker's Creek, west towards Prince Frederick, and then south to Western Shores. In other words, preserving the watersheds of Parker's Creek and Governor's Run with the help of landowners, the county, and the state. Over the years, the mission has changed some, but the messages are still there. Preservation and conservation of natural resources for the benefit of the general public and for educational, recreational, scientific, and historical purposes. How has ACLT adhered to those principles? Are they still relevant today? And what have we done this year? During our celebration weekend, we are happy to share the answers, and furthermore, our members and guests can witness the progress in person. So let's talk about our principles. Are we good stewards of our forests? We are implementing forest stewardship plans and land management plans that prioritize ecosystem health under the guidance of the Land Management Committee and the Science Committee. Our land manager and/or volunteers are in the forest nearly every day, and we have developed a plan to monitor them for changes. As to marshes, we are monitoring changes with the help of the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory and the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center, and are removing invasive Phragmites, while the marshes are helping us by managing stormwater from Prince Frederick and surrounding development, providing a buffer to the bay. And wildlife, ACLT's managed lands are a haven for many native species, a hotspot for wildlife. Even the apex predator, the bald eagle, soars over the creek and also hunts within the forest as well, which we discovered when one of our volunteers, Ian Messent, captured photos of a juvenile and an adult bald eagle hunting under the forest canopy. What about lands preserved? Working with many partners, including the state, county, and private landowners, we have created the largest permanently preserved area in the county and are eagerly seeking more land to preserve. And finally, what about historic preservation? We have been documenting structures as we have purchased the properties and conducted archaeological studies of the whole watershed. So what has been happening this year? I'm now standing next to Parker's Creek, a beautiful place in good ecological condition. But we're living in a world where nearly half of the Australian continent was on fire last year. And now, as a further reminder of climate change, 4 western states are on fire, preceded by what could be the highest temperature ever reliably recorded on Earth on August 17, 2020. The Arctic and Siberia are on fire now too, by the way. So who is stepping up to address climate change? Nationwide, land trusts are working hard to save large landscapes, wildlife areas, and wildlife corridors. And in southern Maryland, it is the ACLT. In southern Maryland, we are also seeing the impacts from humans, invasive species, and changing climate, including the loss of forests, more impervious surfaces, more flooding, and sea level rise. Who to better help plot out a future for the region than ACLT, to maintain a place for wildlife, to promote the creation of wildlife corridors throughout the region. ACLT is doing these things now. We have followed up on the 5-year plan goal to help conserve land throughout southern Maryland. ACLT is working with the Maryland Environmental Trust to form a Southern Maryland Conservation Partnership with a goal to conserve and restore southern Maryland's landscapes, waterways, and shorelines. In addition, we are forming friends groups for neighboring watersheds, such as Hunting Creek, our watershed neighbor to the north, with the most diverse fish species according to the Department of Natural Resources report. And it's a critical part of Calvert's nature resilience. And we formed a friends group to protect St. Leonard Creek, a beautiful creek of great historic significance surrounded by prime farm and forest lands. Meanwhile, work has been going strong in our own watersheds. Autumn Phillips Lewis, our land manager, will highlight what we have done in 2020.
Despite the challenges of this year, ACLT staff, volunteers, and board of directors have made great strides in implementing the stewardship strategies that are outlined in ACLT's current 5-year plan. The goal of these efforts is to create healthy and resilient ecosystems that can serve as a haven for native flora and fauna trying to quickly adapt and survive in a rapidly changing climate. In each of the habitats we protect, we are monitoring and removing invasive species to maintain areas dominated by diverse native vegetation that supports diverse native wildlife. Over the past year, we evaluated all 22 miles of hiking trails through our trail sustainability analysis and are working to reroute trails or improve infrastructure to make them more resilient to storms and sea level rise. Throughout the watershed, we are working to establish much-needed meadow habitat around farm fields and non-forest areas to support the many threatened and endangered species that depend on these habitat types for food and nesting resources. We are also actively protecting and creating habitats for forest and marshland species through actions such as installing nest boxes for birds and creating vernal pools to support amphibian populations. We are also actively conserving our cultural resources and telling the story of those who walked these lands before us. We have an ambitious program to stabilize the Holly Hill log barn, which was built before the Civil War, and are building a Parkers Creek Heritage Trail to document 5 eras of human habitation. In response to the increasing number of our community members that are experiencing food insecurity due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are working to grow more fresh produce to donate to our local food pantry. We are establishing baseline data of our forests, our streams, our fisheries, our birds, and our amphibians and reptiles, so that we can assess the health of our protected lands and monitor and react to changes. Our fields, meadows, forests, and marshes in our preserve are doing their part to filter air pollution, attenuate the impacts of flooding from major storms, filter and absorb stormwater runoff, and provide wildlife habitat. The Maryland Department of Natural Resources estimates that the lands we manage contribute $7.3 million per year in these types of ecosystem services. Additionally, the forests that we manage store 320,000 metric tons of carbon and sequester an additional 18,000 metric tons each year. This means they play a major role in reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Our founders had a great vision for this land, and they put this robust organization in place to achieve it. Your generous support allows us to continue our work and do more. Our trails provide a place of peaceful solitude and allow people to connect to the land. Our Master Naturalist program, outreach events, and participation in the Chesapeake Conservation Corps program help create new advocates for our environment. With your continued support, ACLT will be able to continue to be a local leader in on-the-ground action to preserve land, and care for our natural resources.
The importance of our mission and vision has been borne out this year. ACLT's Partners Creek Preserve has been a sanctuary for members and thousands of residents in the region. Our scientific research is informing our stewardship practices. Our lands and trails are becoming more resilient, and we are working to conserve watersheds throughout southern Maryland, protect key fisheries, farms, forests, and wetlands, with many partners, as is on display with this video. There's just one thing. ACLT needs funds to operate, and we need our membership to continue these programs. But COVID-19 has made events like the dinner auction and large gatherings impossible. And grant funding cuts caused by COVID are taking away normal funding options. ACLT would not be able to accomplish all of this great work without donations from people like you, our supporters who give generously and selflessly for the great mission of ACLT. Celebration Weekend kicks off our fall appeal. We thank you in advance for your generous support. But first, please join us this weekend in celebrating ACLT with hikes, canoe trips, family activities and games, and much more. On Sunday, pack a lunch and enjoy a free concert at 1 p.m. by local musician and storyteller Longman Joseph Norris at Double Oak Farm. Please visit our website for more details. That's www.acltweb.org. And thanks.